My ex bragged about leaving me for a real man, so I built a quiet life of peace, and she still DMs me every few months. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I never thought I'd end up being the kind of person who writes something like this. But after everything that's happened, I guess I just need to get it off my chest. I met Emily when I was 23, back when I was still figuring life out. I was working long hours running a small landscaping business. Not glamorous, but it was honest work. My hands were calloused, my truck always smelled like fresh-cut grass, and my idea of a good night was a cold beer and sleep without back pain. Emily was the opposite of that world. She was bright, outgoing, and carried this effortless confidence that pulled me in like gravity. We met at a mutual friend's BBQ. She laughed at my dumb jokes, asked about my business, and told me she admired guys who build things with their hands. I remember thinking, wow, this girl actually gets me. For months, she was sweet, affectionate, and always made me feel like I was someone worth being proud of. I'd surprise her with little gifts, her favorite coffee, flowers, sometimes dinner after work. She'd hug me and whisper, "You're such a good guy." But even back then, there were little things I ignored. The way she'd roll her eyes when I mentioned being tired, how she'd talk about her exes, all guys with big dreams and connections. Or when she'd say, half-jokingly, "You're not really the fancy type, are you?" I thought it was harmless teasing. I didn't realize those jokes were the early cracks in something that would eventually break me wide open. Because back then, I still believed love could survive anything, even quiet disrespect. And I had no idea how wrong I was. Things started to change around the time Emily got a new job at a marketing firm downtown. Suddenly, her world became full of people who wore designer watches, drove imported cars, and talked about networking events like they were red carpet premieres. She started hanging out with them after work, coming home later, smelling like fancy perfume and city lights. At first, I was proud of her. I told her she deserved it, that it was good to have friends who pushed her to grow. But over time, the way she looked at me changed. Like I was part of her old life, the one she was trying to outgrow. One night I came to pick her up after work because her car was in the shop. When she saw me standing outside the building, dusty jeans, work boots and all, I swear she hesitated before walking over. She forced a smile, but her coworker, this guy named Mark, smirked and said, "Didn't know your boyfriend was the blue-collar type." Emily laughed. Laughed. That laugh stuck with me like a bruise that never healed. At home, I tried to bring it up, to tell her how it made me feel. She sighed and said, "Babe, you're being too sensitive." He was joking. "You should learn to take a joke." I wish I had pushed back harder, but instead, I apologized. I told her I'd try not to take things so seriously. I didn't realize I was teaching her that she could cross lines without consequences, that my silence meant permission. Soon, she started making more jokes, how my truck smelled like poverty, how I should upgrade my look if I wanted to keep up. I told myself she didn't mean it, but deep down, I think I knew. I was starting to lose her respect, and once respect is gone, love doesn't last much longer. It's strange how emotional distance sneaks up on you. One day, you're laughing together over takeout. The next, you're sitting in silence across from someone who used to feel like home. That's what it became with Emily. Quiet, heavy silence. She started spending more time working late or grabbing drinks with friends. I told myself it was just her job, that I was being paranoid, but she stopped texting me during the day, stopped asking about my work, stopped saying, "I love you" first. When I asked if something was wrong, she'd roll her eyes and mutter, "You're imagining things again." One night, I came home early after finishing a project ahead of schedule. Her phone was on the counter and it buzzed. Normally, I wouldn't look, I trusted her, but something in my gut twisted. The message preview said, "Can't wait to see you again." I froze. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd pass out. I didn't open the message. I just stood there, staring at that little gray bubble, my mind spiraling. When she walked in later, humming, pretending everything was fine, I could barely look at her. That night, she curled up beside me like nothing had happened. I lay there, stiff, pretending to sleep, her arm draped over me. And I remember thinking, how many nights had I held her while she thought about someone else? I wanted to confront her, but fear kept me quiet. Fear of losing her. Fear of being right. Fear of finally admitting that maybe I wasn't enough for her anymore. So I said nothing. And silence became our new language, one that spoke louder than any words could. It happened faster than I could process. One night she came home late. Not the oops, I lost track of time kind of late, but the kind where her perfume was stronger than usual, her lipstick slightly smudged, and her eyes empty. She didn't even try to act normal. She sat on the edge of the bed, looked at me and said, "We need to talk." I knew that tone. I'd heard it before, from clients firing employees, not lovers ending relationships. "I can't do this anymore," she said flatly. "You're a good guy, but I've outgrown this. Us. I need someone who can match my energy." I blinked, trying to catch up. "Your energy?" I asked. She looked away, fidgeting with her bracelet. "Jake," she said finally. "He understands me. He's ambitious, successful. A real man." Those two words cut through me like a knife. A real man. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. But all I could do was sit there in stunned silence as she packed her things. Her favorite mug, her clothes, even the framed photo from our first trip together. When she left, the house felt hollow. Empty, but somehow too loud. A few days later, she posted a picture with him, Jake. Tall, smug, muscles bulging out of his designer shirt. Her caption read, "Finally with someone who gets me. New beginnings, sur real man." I stared at that post for hours, my heart pounding. Every like, every comment felt like a public execution of my self-worth. Friends told me to block her, to move on, but I couldn't. I kept looking at that picture, torturing myself with what-ifs, because I didn't just lose her. I lost the version of myself I built around her, and somewhere deep down, I still believed she'd come back. The weeks after she left were a blur. I barely slept, barely ate. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, laughing, smiling, wrapped around him. I deleted her number one day, only to retype it again the next. It was like I couldn't let go, even when holding on was killing me. Then the humiliation started. Mutual friends began sending me screenshots of her posts. Her and Jake vacationing in Miami, her at rooftop parties, her wearing a necklace I once saved up months to buy. The captions were always the same. Never settle for less. Some men talk. Real men act. People in town started whispering. One client even joked, "Hey man, at least she upgraded, right?" I laughed it off, but when I got back to my truck I just sat there, staring at the steering wheel until my hands started shaking. Work suffered. I missed deadlines, forgot appointments, snapped at people who didn't deserve it. My small business, the one I'd poured my life into, began to crumble because my heart couldn't keep up. My crew quit one by one, not out of anger, but pity. "You need a break, boss," one of them said softly before walking away. The nights were the worst. I'd scroll through social media like a masochist, watching her new life unfold in real time. She looked radiant, happy, alive. Meanwhile, I was surrounded by half-empty takeout boxes and unpaid bills. I remember one night vividly. It was raining hard, and I was sitting in the dark, the only light coming from my phone screen. Her latest post popped up. "Some people hold you back. Others set you free." That's when it hit me. She wasn't ashamed of what she'd done. She was proud of it. And that realization broke something in me I didn't think could ever heal. I don't know what finally snapped inside me, but one night, as I sat surrounded by empty bottles and silence, I realized she wasn't coming back. And even if she did, I didn't want the version of myself that would take her back. It wasn't anger that hit me. It was exhaustion. I was tired of checking her posts, tired of wondering why I wasn't enough, tired of being a ghost in my own life. So I did something small. I went outside. The air was cold, sharp against my skin, and for the first time in months I actually looked at the stars. They were still there. Beautiful, unbothered. I remember whispering to myself, "You have to start again." The next morning, I deleted her photos. Not in a fit of rage, but with a strange calm. I threw away the old souvenirs. The mug she loved, the hoodie she used to wear. I even changed my phone wallpaper from her smile to a picture of a sunrise I'd taken years ago. Then I called my first client in weeks. Told him I was back in business. He sounded surprised, but said, "Glad to hear it, man." That one call felt like taking my first breath after drowning. I started running in the mornings. Not to chase anything, just to move. I'd come home sweaty, gasping, and alive. I cut back on drinking. I started reading again. Slowly, the noise in my head began to fade. My therapist once told me, "Peace is louder than revenge." I didn't understand it at first, but as the days turned into weeks, I realized peace wasn't something I found. It was something I built, one quiet choice at a time, and I wasn't done building yet. The following year moved slowly, like I was relearning how to exist. Every morning, I woke up before sunrise, laced up my old running shoes, and hit the pavement. The first few weeks were brutal. Lungs burning, legs aching, but something about the pain felt earned. It was a pain that led somewhere. I poured everything into my business again. One job at a time, I started rebuilding what I'd let crumble. I showed up early, worked harder than ever, and soon word started spreading. Clients came back, referrals doubled, and I finally had to hire help. Seeing my name on freshly printed business cards again felt grounding, like I'd finally reclaimed something that was mine all along. But I kept things quiet. No posts, no flexing, no updates for the world to see. For once, I wanted peace, not attention. My evenings were spent on my porch, watching the sun dip behind the trees, drinking tea instead of whiskey. The silence that used to suffocate me had turned into something I craved. People started noticing the change. My buddy Dan, who had seen me at my worst, said, "Man, I don't know what you're doing, but you look lighter." I just smiled. I didn't need to explain that I'd stopped chasing closure and started choosing myself. I even began volunteering at a local shelter on weekends, fixing broken benches, cleaning up the garden, talking with people who had lost more than I ever did. Funny thing, helping others heal somehow healed parts of me I didn't even know were still bleeding. For the first time in years, I felt free. Not because I'd moved on from Emily, but because I'd finally stopped orbiting around her memory, and just when I thought the past was finally behind me, it found a way to knock on my door again. It was a random Tuesday night when it happened. I had just finished dinner, scrolling through my phone absent-mindedly when a notification popped up. A message request from her. My stomach dropped. For a second, I just stared at the screen, half expecting my mind to be playing tricks on me. But there it was. "Hey, stranger. Long time no see." It had been almost 2 years since she left. I hadn't heard a single word from her, not even a "how are you?" My hands trembled slightly as I opened the message. She went on. "Just wanted to see how you're doing. You always had such a good heart. I miss talking to you sometimes." I didn't reply right away. I just sat there, rereading her words, feeling a mix of confusion, anger, and, I'll admit, a spark of something else. Nostalgia, maybe. Or the ghost of what we used to be. After a few minutes, I typed back, "Hey, hope you're doing well." Her reply came almost instantly. "Not really. Jake turned out to be a jerk. He cheated on me. Multiple times." I just stared at it, feeling this cold sense of irony wash over me. The man she left me for, the real man, had treated her the way she once treated me. I didn't gloat. I didn't say "I told you so." I just replied, "Sorry to hear that. You deserve better." She sent a sad face emoji, then said, "You were always too good for me." That one hit harder than I expected, because for the first time I realized she wasn't wrong. Still, something about that message felt unfinished, like it wasn't closure, just the start of something I hadn't asked for, and I was about to find out exactly what that meant. Over the next few weeks, her messages kept coming. Little things at first. A meme, a "remember this place?" photo. The kind of small talk that feels innocent on the surface but carries ghosts underneath. I didn't respond every time, but I read every word. I wish I could say I was completely detached, but part of me wasn't. She'd say things like, "I miss how calm life felt with you," or "Jake never listened like you did." Each time it pulled at something I thought I'd buried. I'd type out a response, stare at it for a minute, then delete it. One night, she called me out of nowhere. I let it ring twice before answering. Her voice, soft, a little shaky, hit me like a punch. "I shouldn't be calling," she said. "I just needed to hear someone kind." I didn't know what to say. I sat there in silence while she talked about Jake, the breakup, the loneliness. She cried, and for a moment, the part of me that still remembered her laugh wanted to comfort her, but the longer she talked, the clearer it became. She wasn't calling to apologize. She was calling to escape her own mess. I was her emotional safety net again. After we hung up, I sat there staring at the ceiling, realizing how easy it would be to fall back into that pattern. How quickly I could lose everything I'd built just by opening the wrong door. So, the next morning, I muted her messages. Then, a week later, I stopped replying altogether. It hurt more than I expected. Not because I missed her, but because I missed who I used to be with her. And yet, deep down, I knew this wasn't over. The past has a way of testing you right when you think you've moved on. It was a Saturday morning when I saw her again. Not through a screen this time, but in the flesh. I was grabbing coffee at this small cafe downtown, one I'd started frequenting after runs. The smell of roasted beans, the low hum of quiet chatter, it had become part of my peace routine. Then I heard her voice, that familiar, too smooth tone saying, "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" I turned and there she was. Emily. She looked different. The glow she used to have. The confidence, the spark. It was dimmer now. Her makeup was perfect, but her eyes looked tired. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she smiled awkwardly and said, "Wow, you look good." I just nodded. "Thanks. You too." We made small talk, the kind that feels polite but loaded. She asked about my business, my house, my life. When I told her things were going well, she blinked, surprised. "You always said you wanted your own place," she said softly. "I'm happy for you." But there was something else behind her words. Envy, maybe, or regret. Then she laughed nervously and said, "You know, I miss how calm things were with you. Jake was chaos." I just sipped my coffee and replied, "Yeah, peace is underrated." She bit her lip, as if searching for the right thing to say. Finally, she said, "Maybe we could catch up sometime, like old times?" I looked at her for a long second. The same woman who once broke me, now looking for comfort in the man she left behind. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger or heartbreak. I felt pity. I smiled gently. "Take care of yourself, Emily." Then I stood up, left a tip, and walked out. Not in bitterness, but in quiet freedom. And that's when I realized, closure doesn't always come with an apology. Sometimes it comes when you stop needing one. Walking out of that cafe felt like stepping into a different version of myself, one that no longer needed to prove anything. The sunlight hit my face, and for the first time, it didn't hurt to think about her. It didn't sting to remember what she'd said, what she'd done, or who she'd chosen. It was just over. That night, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea, listening to the crickets and the wind rustling through the trees. No noise, no chaos, no questions looping in my head. Just peace. Real, earned peace. For years, I thought revenge meant success. That one day I'd be so far ahead she'd regret everything. But sitting there, I realized revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't about posting wins or showing off. It was about not caring anymore. The silence I once feared had become my favorite sound. I started noticing little things again. The way the sky turned gold before sunset. The smell of rain. The way my dog wagged his tail when I came home. These small, quiet moments became the proof that I'd survived something I once thought would destroy me. A few weeks later, one of my clients mentioned seeing Emily around town. "She doesn't look too happy these days," they said. I just smiled and replied, "I hope she finds peace too." And I meant it. because I finally understood something. Closure isn't her realizing my worth. It's me realizing I don't need her to. Every scar, every sleepless night, every tear I once swallowed. They built the version of me that now sleeps easily, smiles genuinely, and wakes up with purpose. I didn't just move on from her. I moved into myself. But as life would have it, sometimes peace doesn't mean silence forever, because just when I thought it was all behind me, she found another way back into my life. It's been 3 years since that cafe encounter. Life's good, not glamorous, not perfect, just good. My business is thriving. I've got a small house with a backyard full of overgrown roses and a quiet routine that feels like home. Then, every few months I get a DM, always from the same name I once couldn't stop thinking about. It's never long, never emotional, just little things. Hope you're doing okay. Saw a photo of your dog. He's so cute. This song reminded me of you. At first I used to wonder what she wanted. Did she miss me? Was she lonely? Did she finally realize what she'd thrown away? But the more it happened, the less it mattered. I stopped reading between the lines. Now, when her messages pop up, I just let them sit there, unopened, unread, unseen, because the truth is, she's not reaching out to reconnect. She's reaching out to see if I still care, to see if I'd still be the guy waiting to catch her when life drops her again, and I'm not that guy anymore. One evening, I was locking up my office when I caught my reflection in the window. Older, calmer, stronger, I thought about everything she put me through, and instead of anger, I felt gratitude. Not for the pain, but for the push, because without her betrayal, I'd never have built this life. And the irony? The real man she left me for is long gone. Meanwhile, I quietly became everything she said I wasn't. Stable, peaceful, fulfilled. So now, when I see her name light up on my phone, I smile, not because I miss her, but because I don't. I built a life so calm, so steady, so completely my own, that even my past can't disturb it anymore.